And welcome. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis, your host, and we've got a wonderful program ahead for you today. For those of you in midlife, those of you professionals out there that find yourself getting into the turmoil of the same old day every day as though you were reliving a Groundhog Day, we've got an opportunity for you to expand your horizons and perhaps your professional career as well. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program is both Ralph Baird, and he is a native South Africa and has served as Vice President for Travel Services Partnerships for People-to-People Ambassador Groups, and he has also led 7 service learning projects to Rwanda since 2007. Also joining us with him is Dawn Davis. She is the Executive Director of People-to-People Citizen Ambassador Programs. Citizen Ambassador Programs provide global exchange opportunities for professionals who want to learn more about the field they are meeting one-on-one with international colleagues to share ideas, learn, grow, and shape their careers. And they're going to talk with us today about what this is all about. So I'd like to welcome Ralph Baird and Dawn Davis to the Beyond 50 radio program. Thank you, guys. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks, Dan.
Now, this is kind of a neat topic because I know that as I got into my 20s, I had already spent about 6 years in the United States Navy, had the opportunity to travel around the world, came back and realized how many of my peers seemed to have that attitude of entitlement. They were taking a lot of things in America for granted, and I realized you really need to get out there and see how the rest of the world truly is for real growth and development. And then you realize there are many people in their midlife, professionals, that haven't done any more than those 20-something peers that I'm talking about. Tell us what the benefits of this program is and how it works.
Well, I'll go ahead and answer that. This is Dawn. Really the opportunity for a professional to meet with their counterparts overseas and truly understand what their life is like, even though they technically have exactly the same jobs, whether they're in the United States or whether they're in rural China. So you're actually seeing what is life like for a classroom teacher in the U.S. compared to what it's like in China. And what they walk away with is an understanding of, hey, even though we feel like we have challenges in our education system here in the U.S., if we put ourselves in those shoes, we're in pretty great position.
I totally agree with that. It's quite interesting what a classroom is like. Maybe give us an idea, we'll kind of do some comparisons so that our listeners understand what those differences are.
Well, really, if you look at a classroom in rural China, they certainly don't have the accoutrements that we have here in the U.S. Their classroom may be 2 students to a desk. They may not have the technology that we have here in the U.S., and a teacher may be teaching 40 to 70 students. So simply just putting it in that context, in comparison to a classroom here in the U.S., it's very, very different.
Now, I'll tell you, here's a question for Ralph now about group travel, and especially the Citizen Ambassador programs. What makes this travel experience, would you say, more enriching than if you were just out there doing your own thing?
I think the major difference is that we offer access to unique opportunities that you could not gain if you were just a tourist. Rwanda is a great example of that, where we've done all the groundwork. We've gone into the country several times. We've carefully set up the program to try to give people the best possible introduction. Today, with the amount of time that is available for us to take time away from work, you really don't want to have to get to a country and then try and figure out how to do some of the unique things that the country has to offer. What we offer on the program is we take all that on for you and give you access to places that you couldn't possibly go unless you were with a program such as ours.
Now, that's what I like to hear, because a lot of people tend to, especially professionals, they're at the grind. They're probably putting in anywhere from 50 to maybe 100 hours a week. Some of them are just very adamant about being workaholics. They take a vacation. Perhaps they go to a foreign country. And they find themselves in that same old thing, let's see this building, let's go here for lunch, let's take a look at this, landmass over here, and it feels like, well, I got something out of it, but I don't feel that I really got something out of it. Now, share how that is different. It sounds like you just hit on it, but in a little more detail about how this can be a different experience.
Well, for example, if you were traveling to Rwanda and arrived at Kigali Airport, and then looked around and said, well, what should I do while I'm here? There's a couple of flyers in the airport that point out some of the major sites that people see when they're in Rwanda. Probably the biggest one of all is the Genocide Museum. Most tourists to the country find their way there. But it doesn't tell you how to meet people and how to get to know everyday people or perhaps your professional counterparts. On a people-to-people experience, if you're a medical professional, for example, and you travel to Rwanda, we will take you to rural clinics, some of them so out of the way that you'll need four-wheel drive vehicles to get to them. And you get to see the real people of Rwanda, get to meet with them, exchange ideas, and get to know them on a very personal level.
Mm-hmm. Now, Don, what does it mean to be a citizen ambassador, and what do they do? I mean, it sounds to me like Ralph has kind of touched on it here, but...
He touched on it, but I think there's more to that. When he talked about the opportunity to meet with, you're going to meet with the people with people to people.
Right.
What really they do is if you're a physician and you visited a hospital, you're actually going to do rounds with a physician, watch the techniques they use. Are they looking at traditional Chinese medicine? Are they looking at cutting edge technology? Are they looking at ways of patient care that hasn't been addressed or that is new to them, or is something that we did years ago, and maybe it's something we need to be brought back. So they're actually communicating, at a level that that they deal with every day in their professional life. So they're gaining total insight into the profession within the country they visit. What I hear from people most of the time is that, I thought I was going there to give my techniques or to give my knowledge, and what I came away with is far more than I ever thought I would do. It's really, truly the phenomenon. Not only did they walk away with an understanding and knowledge that they wouldn't have addressed, now they've got a colleague half the distance around the world.
To me, that's very exciting when you think that you're going into what could be a third world country. You really think that, I'm sure these guys are maybe a step behind in the times, but as you just said, they come back and they realize, my goodness, I wished I would have probably learned a lot of this while I was going through school.
Exactly. Imagine having a best friend who is in Russia, and they've lived through all the challenges and the changes that have gone on in Russia in the last 10 years, and they're a professional, and you're getting to go visit them, follow them around work. Imagine the experience you're going to walk away with versus just going to Russia and seeing St. Basil's Cathedral and Lenin's tomb and doing the normal cultural experience. You're going to actually walk away with a real understanding of what life is like. What is the culture?
Yeah, see, and that's what I really enjoy when I get those opportunities, as I was alluding to earlier, as being in the service. Most of them would kind of get off the boat, and here they were kind of hit the local bars and doing the same things you do here in America. And I thought, I want to do what I would usually do in America, which is put a few dollars in my pocket and just go get lost. Keep my mouth quiet and start talking to people and mostly listening, and it was amazing, some of the experiences that I had. And I can see where being a professional, as you talked with, one of them is being a doctor. Imagine being, for instance, a lawyer or an educator. What are some of the other professionals that generally like to get involved in a program such as People Citizen Ambassadorship?
Well, the groups vary. They are based upon, the mutual interest by the host country as well as here in the U.S. So, of course, we have law, we have medicine, we have education, we have occupational therapists. It really gets down to that level. It's not just a general medicine program. We have emergency room nurses, it's thoracic surgeons, reading teachers. It's really it gets down to the very specific level. So you're really traveling with a group of 20 to 30 people who really are doing exactly what you do. And so they represent not only their education in general, they represent the people who have the exact same job as they do. Mm-hmm. So that when we set up a meeting for them, they can dialogue back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Now, go ahead, either of you two, and tackle this particular question. what countries right now are currently part of this program, and which ones are you seeking to hopefully bring into the fold?
Well, I'll answer that. We of course travel to the People's Republic of China.
Okay.
We travel to Russia, South Africa, Rwanda, Vietnam, and Cambodia. And we're looking at expanding and doing programs into Israel this year. We've sent programs to Jordan in the past. So really, and if the characteristic about all those destinations is they're not something that you would feel comfortable doing what you talked about, which is, getting off the boat and just walking around and meeting people. Most people are a little bit, intimidated by that, and so this is the opportunity for them to do that.
Mm-hmm. Now, when people from the United States go over there and they're involved with this program, regardless of which country it is, do they take away a feeling of how that country views the United States, and what would that view be like?
In general, absolutely. They always do. They walk away and they say, and I'm going to tell you a quick story here. When we first were going into the Soviet Union, we sent a group of gifted educators into Novosibirsk. It was approximately 1990, and it might have been 89. And when they went into the classroom, the students were scared to death of these Americans. Who were they? Because they had lived. Their parents were subjects of the Cold War. So they were saying, hey, this is a very scary experience. The hotels, people had to bring their own, from their homes brought plates because they didn't have enough equipment to support the delegation.
I've seen Dr. Strangelove. I know what you guys are out there after.
So, and the world's evolved. I mean, the technology and the ability to communicate has totally changed that. So, there's certainly not that type of education about each other is not happening today, but at least in Russia. But it is happening, say, for example, in Rwanda. And Ralph, I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the opportunity is to really get to know people from the country that you're visiting, from the host country, in a way that you wouldn't if they came here, or if you went there as a tourist. And the reaction from the people in Rwanda has been very interesting to the United States because, as a rule, the U.S. right now we've had a difficult time traveling as U.S. citizens. Some of the countries have asked us about our government policies, and have maybe been a little bit critical of where we are in world policy. And I think that a lot of traveling U.S. citizens think that is going to be the perception when they travel overseas. My personal experience, though, is when you get to these countries, people may not like some of the things that the U.S. government has done lately, but they certainly do not hold the U.S. citizens accountable for that, and they really love us. I mean, no matter where we've gone, we've felt very warmly welcomed. Rwanda has been particularly interesting because they have a very high regard for the U.S., and during the Rwandan genocide, the U.S. kind of turned its back on Rwanda, as did most of the world. And so when I first went there, I was a little hesitant because I was thinking, well, how are these people going to react? They went through this terrible period. The U.S. policy at the time actually delayed the worldwide response to the Rwandan genocide. And I thought, well, when you get there, are people going to sort of hold that against you? And that was absolutely not the case. Bill Clinton traveled to Rwanda after his presidency and apologized for his personal actions and the actions of the United States, and that meant a lot to the Rwandese. And so today, the relationship with U.S. citizens is absolutely fantastic. In fact, the U.S. has built a very large embassy in Rwanda. Probably one of the largest embassies in Africa is in Kigali. And the plans apparently are to increase U.S. presence in Rwanda quite significantly.
For those of you just tuning in, we're talking with Ralph Bard and also Don Davis, and they're both involved in what is known as people-to-people citizen ambassadorships to other countries. So if you're a working professional and you're thinking about vacation, why not do something very active that will give you definitely more than you would have ever bargained for? Now, I know that there was a survey that you folks took about how people sort of, what their personal views and beliefs are and how they changed. Tell us about that.
Well, I can talk a little bit about that. Of the 2,000 citizen ambassadors that took part in the survey, 97% said that they believe they were more open-minded because of their travel experience, and 50.
Wow. That's incredible.
Huge. So it truly had an experience. It impacted them, and 54% said that they were actually able to take what they learned and bring it back into their career, and that they are more successful today in their careers because of the global business experience that they had.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, that's just incredible.
And I tell you, Dan, the experience that I've had in taking U.S. delegations to Rwanda is. Most of the people, as Dawn had said, they thought that they were going in and that we would have great ideas and be able to offer sort of parental advice to the Rwandese on how they could improve healthcare or how they could improve things there. And what I found time and time again is that people have been humbled by the experience. They go there thinking that they have all the answers, and they actually find out that in a lot of areas, Rwanda is doing a lot better than we are with a lot of the social integration issues that they have, and that there is a responsibility. For example, in Rwanda, tax day, which in the United States is always a big, everybody complains about having to pay taxes, and tax day is coming up and you've got to get your tax bills in. In Rwanda, tax day is a celebration. And it is a national holiday, and everybody goes out and dances and celebrates the fact that they pay taxes. And for people from the U.S.,
on the 16th of April.
Exactly, it was
fireworks going everywhere. It's tax day.
Well, they do good citizenship awards. So everybody who paid their taxes on time actually receives a certificate from the government commending them on having paid their taxes on time.
Oh, wow.
And the government of Rwanda is the President of Rwanda, Kagame, is a very interesting guy, and some of his policies are very unique. For example, he requires that all of his cabinet ministers travel out to villages in Rwanda on an annual basis for 3 weeks and visit with the taxpayers, tell them how they plan to use taxes, and get feedback from the taxpayers as to how they think taxes should be used.
Don't
so
ever
it's a very
let
different
this
approach.
become mainstream media here in America. We'll just end up shredding our government apart. I mean, my goodness, when you go and you talk to people about paying taxes, you tell them how you're going to use the money. Oh, my goodness, are you kidding me? Oh, that's taboo here in America. We don't do that. We just take the money and tell them what we're going to do with it. Crazy stuff. Now, let's talk about, for instance, how somebody gets involved with this. What are the steps? What is the time commitment generally that a person needs to make if they want to get involved into this people ambassador exchange?
Sure. Well, I'm going to start at the very beginning.
Okay.
Once we agree upon that we should be sending a group of thoracic surgeons to China. So I work with my overseas partners to come up with, the list of the programs we should be doing. Then I work back here on the U.S. side with I'm looking for the top thoracic surgeon here in the U.S. Okay. So I want to make sure that we represent their field well. So generally I'll go to the American College of Surgeons and say, hey, would you make a nomination for me for who should be the leader of this delegation? And they'll give me 3 or 4 names and say, this is the right person. This is the right person. I then whittle it down and pick the person who should actually serve as the professional leader of this project. That leader then works with me to develop their mission. What do they see for this program and what should come out of it? That mission then is communicated overseas, and we come up with a consensus and say, this is what we want to accomplish out of this project. That consensus then drives into meetings, sites we should visit, the type of people that should participate on this program, and where we should go and what we should do. Then I go back to the U.S. Association, the American College of Surgeons, who made the recommendation, and I say to them, okay, now who should we invite? And they'll say, you know what, the entire section of the American College of Surgeons that are thoracic surgeons is who you should invite. That covers the entire United States. And so then an invitation goes out to those people who are professionally relevant to that focus. And they're invited to participate. Now, of course, not every surgeon belongs to that association. So I invite any anyone to go to my website and look for their professional field. Each year we're traveling about 200 of these delegations, and you'll find something of interest to you. In addition to the very specific fields, we also do more general programs, a mission and understanding. So if you're retired, you're very interested in child welfare and what's happening in Rwanda, or, really, I've always wanted to go there and I want to see it in a different direction, you can participate on a mission and understanding. So you walk away with not only a very specific field interest, but the entire broad perspective. And you can find that list of the programs on peopletopeople.com. And go to the Citizen Ambassador Program and all of the projects that are listed there for 2008.
I could just see that as a working professional, as you're approaching midlife and you get involved with a program like this, I guess a crisis is not something you'll ever experience. It seems to me like it's just a great experience. And I know earlier when you were talking about, for instance, say a medical professional going over there and realizing or thinking that they're going to parent and teach and share all this new technology to this, what may be perceived to be a third world country. I remembered of a story where there was a family that traveled around the world with their 2 children, and one of them was an 8-year-old. And one of the worst things that he was afraid would happen actually had happened, and I believe it was in the country of Taiwan, and where the daughter ended up with a very serious laceration that required stitches. And, what do you do when you're in a foreign country having to take care of this? Well, they were able to go to a medical facility, a clinic. Immediately, they rushed the daughter into the room to be taken care of while they just sit and ask the parents a couple of questions. Within 10 minutes later, the daughter was out, patched up, very clean work, $75. And I thought to myself, my goodness, in America, you're dying on the couch just filling out the paperwork. And we're going to teach them about how to do medicine? That's crazy.
You're absolutely right. When you look at different worlds, you want to say, they don't have the bureaucracy that we have in place sometimes. And, hey, they're purists in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are the many different professionals that you have now? I think you talked about it a little bit earlier in the show, but just to give our new people tuning in here an idea of what these are, and what other particular categories are you looking to add to this people-to-people program?
We're heavily weighted right now in medicine, and mainly because there's such a humanitarian need out there, and they can truly affect parts of the world with a humanitarian interest, and so we have doctors, we have nurses, we have radiologists, we have technicians, just about any medical field, we've got a program for them.
How about cooks?
That's a great question.
I know I would feel humbled in China or Taiwan if I was to be a cook to go over there to learn how to cook their food. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, absolutely. And as a mission and understanding each year, I try to put together a culinary program. Or this year I have a wine program to South Africa.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Don't
it's
say
going to
that
be very
over here
popular.
In the Northwest, boy. You'll have everybody volunteering.
It not only does it focus on the different wines, but it focuses on the growing and the how it's just very, very broad. You can learn everything about the wine industry, the different wines on a program like this, and you're not just walking through and having a tasting. You're actually meeting with the viticulture and the enologist specialists and saying, hey, this is really how we do it. And most of the people who would participate on this group, either they love wine, which that's okay too, or they are a small winery. So.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to make sure, Dan, that people know that we're not only limited necessarily to the professional type programs. Last Christmas, I led a small delegation of people to Rwanda, and the specific focus of that delegation was to bring Christmas to a couple of orphanages that we formed relationships with. And that was probably one of the most rewarding trips that I've been on, because the focus was it was 14 of us that were there, and we arrived and visited 3 different children's projects, and not so much bringing them stuff, but just bringing them sort of goodwill from the United States. It was an amazing program. So there is, and the people on that program came from an education background. There were a couple of professors from a university. There was a family that traveled because they wanted a family experience. So it was, it's open to anybody.
Okay. Now, how is this program supported? Is it by donation, or how does this all work?
Each person, it is a citizen commitment. So as a private citizen effort, it is funded by each individual. Now, that funding, 50% of the people who participate on my programs tell me that they receive funding in some form from their employer. So teachers are getting funding and why do they get funding? It's because they get continuing education credits. This is truly a learning opportunity.
Oh, very good.
So although it is a private citizen, we help support them with getting the funding from their employers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, nurses. This is a learning opportunity. We offer continuing education credits in law, so through every state in the United States, we get state bar credits for them. In addition, we have Category 1 credits through ACMQ, which is the credits that physicians need to maintain their license. And we have continuing nursing credits through the University of Pittsburgh. So continuing education is a core of what we do because we are an educational learning opportunity.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're a life insurance agent, that sure would be an exciting way to get your continuing education.
Absolutely. I hear that every day.
Community colleges, get involved with people to people and do your continuing education that way. The life experience will be more than you'll ever be able to fathom. Why don't you go ahead and give out information for our listeners where they may not be the kind of professionals that are within your pool right now, but maybe they know somebody, and who knows, maybe even get the opportunity to get involved one way or the other. And, that was the other question. Is it possible for people to get involved with this program just as volunteers to help out with whatever needs to be helped out with?
Always. We're always interested in people being involved in a variety of ways, and they can reach me let me give you my number that I can be reached at. It's 877-787-2000. And that will be answered by People-to-People Ambassador programs, and you can reach me through the Citizen Ambassador program. You can also reach me through people2people.com, our website that lists all the programs that are coming up, and also gives you an opportunity to enroll, look at what you want, ask questions, and nominate a colleague as well.
Well, very good. Again, the program is People to People, and it's the Citizen Ambassador Program for working professionals who want to lend their skills overseas to different countries around the world, and also enrich their experience and their professional background as well. And our guests joining us here, Ralph Baird and Don Davis. It's been a pleasure to have both of you on the program again. Go ahead and give out your website.
That's people2people.com.
Simple enough.
Pretty simple.
Thank you for being on the program today. It's been a pleasure to talk with both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. So there you go. People2people.com is the place. Find out more about that if you're a working professional and you'd like to lend your view and your energy and time, and also continuing education is something that you need to fulfill. This is certainly a way for you to do it. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in today. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. Be sure to visit us at our website at beyond50radio.com. That's the number 50 with a 50, where you'll have more information about what People to People is all about and find out what opportunities are available. Again, thank you for tuning in. I'm Daniel Davis, and remember, live your day past halfway.